sports.
We are the Fourth. We are Florida.
From the Big Apple, the Miami Marlins are finally back in action. After a game on Saturday afternoon that ended around 4 o'clock, Sunday rained out, Monday rained out, but back to play 4 games in 3 days here at Citi Field in New York. Very somber day around the country for sure, and certainly in this very city, which was affected by those tragic events, the terrorist acts in 2001. Just in downtown New York City. With that, we say hi again, everybody, and welcome inside the broadcast booth. Paul Severino and Todd Hollinsworth. Again, with all the rain, glad to be back with you. And always special to be in and around New York City on a day as special and, yes, as somber as this.
Well, this day is a day of remembrance. We certainly know what happened that day. I think we all remember where we were at that very moment in time. And great to be here, great to be in the city as we remember those fallen in that tragic event so many years ago.
So we focus on the baseball now, and a lot of it coming your way over the next 3 days, as yesterday's game got rained out, so that means a doubleheader comes your way tomorrow. Also, the probables for the Mets flip-flopping a little bit as well, with Jose Urena going tonight. Jeff Brigham, who was supposed to start Sunday and then yesterday, will now pitch tomorrow night.
Well, we could argue that, maybe the series' best matchup is right here tonight, so you want to tune in for this one. We certainly know where DeGrom is at. He has been otherworldly all season long, but guess what? The Marlins have kind of held their own against him this season, and we certainly know Urena has been absolutely lights out over his last 3 starts.
Yes, he has, and even though the Mets played Sunday, the Marlins did not, Jacob deGrom was supposed to start on Sunday. Weather conditions were not great. They weren't sure about the game, so they bumped him back to yesterday. Of course, no game yesterday, so deGrom pitches today. And some people are saying, well, with how many starts he's got left, this could affect his Cy Young chances. I don't see it that way, but the Marlins might affect it. These numbers are what they are.
Well, but, the one thing that stands out, the 3.32 ERA, and I proudly say this, the Marlins have held their own. Now, listen, he's obviously going to make multiple starts against teams in his division, against teams this year in which he's made multiple starts, and there have been 8 teams. The Marlins have given him essentially his highest ERA of 3.32. So, listen, he's had that kind of season. There's no doubt about it. But if anybody has kind of stood up to the degrominator, it's been the Marlins this season, and guess what? They've won 6 of his last 7 starts. The Marlins have, beating DeGrom. I mean, the Mets haven't played well behind him either.
No, they have not. Listen, lots of great, because it's a historic season, frankly, for Jacob deGrom. We'll break it down every which way over the course of the next few hours. When we come back, how about facing Jacob deGrom? Jessica Blaylock catches up with some of the Marlins who've seen him a few times this year and in years past. Hey, we finally have baseball coming your way after the break. a few moments away. Jacob deGrom gets the ball. What is it like to face him? Let's check in with Jessica Blaylock.
Hey, Paul. Yeah, Jacob deGrom was supposed to start this past Sunday for the Mets, but due to weather, due to postponements, he is now on the mound tonight. Now, the Marlins know that they're going to have their hands full when it comes to the Mets ace, but they also know that Jacob deGrom is beatable.
I'm just going to look at him as every other pitcher here. Obviously, he's the best pitcher in the league right now, putting up great numbers, but you know, he's going to come at you from what I've seen and just what I've been told. He's going to come at you early, so just got to stick to my approach and just try to get him early and often as I can.
Obviously, he is, one of the, if not the best, pitcher in the league. Not only in the National League, but in all of baseball, and you got to respect that. But at the same time, we just put a game plan together as a team, and just got to execute it. And doesn't make that many mistakes, so when he does, you try to capitalize on it.
As we talk about with all guys like him, your starter has to be good, keep you in the game and give you a chance. And I think that's probably the one thing I know we haven't beat him up, but we've been able to keep them down, keep ourselves in a close game, and then you can just scratch for runs.
And despite his fantastic numbers on the season, Jacob deGrom has yet to beat the Marlins. Miami will look to continue that trend tonight. When we return, it is first pitch here at Citi Field as the Marlins and the Mets finally kick off a 4-game series here in New York. It'll be Jacob deGrom on the mound for New York. Jose Urena will get the start for Miami.
Nothing to Hide by WB Mason. Who but WB Mason, the official office supply company of the Miami Marlins. By Chevrolet, see your South Florida dealer today, and by your South Florida Toyota dealers. Well, a little overcast here, maybe a little cool, but certainly not too uncomfortable, and certainly not what we had yesterday or in Pittsburgh on Sunday. So we will have baseball tonight. Jacob deGrom is on the mound. This is the Marlins lineup that he will face. It is presented to you by Southwest. Starlin Castro has been hot as of late, collecting hits at a fever pitch. JT Realmuto, his last 10 red hot. Now it's just a matter of getting Brian Anderson back on track, a guy who by various accounts. May have looked a little tired the last few days, but a couple of days off. Maybe he'll get back on track tonight against a pitcher in Jacob deGrom that he has seen quite a bit this year, as the Marlins have as well. And to say that they have his number is just relative to how he's owned the rest of baseball.
Well, 188 innings, an 8-9 record, and a 1.68 ERA. I'm not sure how that all adds up, but I'll tell you what, making his 29th start of the season, 4th versus the Marlins. As I mentioned in the open, a 3.32 ERA this season against the Marlins, so that's a little bloated. And when you kind of add up the 168, the Marlins have done better than most teams have against deGrom this season. Let's go ahead and give you the Auto Nation scouting report. This might go on for the first couple of innings, but we'll start here. Cy deGrom, no doubt about it. How about in August of a 1.24 ERA in 6 starts? And the one thing that really stands out, 43 2/3 innings in the month of August, only 9 walks and 60 strikeouts. He's getting better as this season seems to move on. All right, game's best fastball. Now there's going to be a disclaimer with this. He's got one of the best, 213 batting average again, 6th best in Major League Baseball, 113 strikeouts. But guess what? It's also got one of the game's best changeup and slider combinations as well. So whether I went changeup or whether I went fastball, it really didn't matter. Keep it close. That's the game plan for the Marlins tonight. And this is as much about the Marlins defense. Jose Urena scratching across a couple of runs. When you add up that 8-8 record, 25 consecutive starts of 3 earned runs or less by deGrom. Keep this game low scoring and keep yourself in the ballgame.
We are underway here in Queens. Glad that you're with us. Again, one game today. Doubleheader comes your way tomorrow. Single admission. So we start at 4, and the games will go back to back. And then a getaway day comes up on Thursday. There's a strike. deGrom's first of the night. 1-1 to Rafael Ortega.
deGrom, you'll see the 4-seam fastball has a sinker, slider, change, and curve.
We've talked an awful lot about the Marlins having to wait, playing on Saturday afternoon. You get all of Saturday night off, Sunday off, Monday off, and then playing Tuesday night. Well, as we mentioned before, deGrom was supposed to go on Sunday here against the Philadelphia Phillies, but we found out about it maybe an hour or so before the game, or even less, that he had been scratched. So Mickey Callaway moving things around in the rotation. Of course, rain out yesterday, everybody affected by that, but you have to imagine that deGrom has been chomping at the bit to get back on the mound.
Well, you ready? Pitching on 6 days rest, Paul. 2.61 ERA, so he's clearly struggling with the extra rest.
He can be had. Now they're getting some attention here for the catcher Kevin Plawecki, who may have been clipped on the foul tip. Oh, not clipped at all. This is how it sounded.
Yeah, right off the mask. Well, none of the velocity. It doesn't get any slower, especially after a foul ball. You watch at home and you think, okay, well, the ball is fouled off and it's moving back. It must slow down. A lot of times it's speeding up, in fact. So you see how close he is. And with that baseball hitting him square in the mask, that had to be about I don't know, maybe close to 100 miles an hour off his mask.
He was hit in the ribs with a pitch last week, so it's been a long year behind the plate for Kevin Plawecki. Again, hasn't been the everyday catcher back there, but that's why they call them the tools of ignorance. Thankfully, he's all right, and we carry on. Next pitch from deGrom will be a payoff pitch to Ortega. And he takes inside for ball 4.
Let's get you the Mets defensively behind deGrom tonight. Conforto in left, Jackson in center. Nimmo gets the start in right. Todd Frazier, Rosario, Jeff McNeil. He's kind of an interesting story, making his 35th start at second base. Only 1 error. Smith gets the start at first, and Plawecki, as we mentioned, this is his 7th time catching deGrom this season. 2.03 ERA. Early on, Mesoraco caught him the most, 19 times this year, but has been on the shelf.
Cut on and missed by Starlin Castro, who has 5 multi-hit games in his last 9. He's hitting .361 in that span. .288 on the year, 11 homers and 51 RBIs. Ortega away from first as Castro fouls it back to the screen.
I'm sure you'll see many of the Marlins this evening try to attack DeGrom early in the count. A lot of times you'll see the best hittable fastball. It doesn't make it any easier. He's throwing hard, 97, 98 miles an hour. But generally speaking, you talk about aces, you talk about getting to them before they get to you.
And staying out of 2-strike counts, even though Castro has been terrific at that this year. There is a called strike 3. Inside corner, and Castro is down for the game's first out.
Well, no waiting around. DeGrom went right at him with fastballs, including the last one. Let's take another look. The 2-strike pitch was more about the belt, right at the knees.
Now, only Chris Sale has a lower batting average against with 2 strikes than Jacob DeGrom. Sale's at 100. Prior to that strikeout, DeGrom at 112. That's pitchers with 100 innings this year. Here's JT Realmuto.
Now, generally speaking, we try to find comparables to make the point, right? You say, okay, well, let's compare him to Sale. I think with what we've seen from DeGrom this year, he's now become the standard for which guys are being compared to, as opposed to comparing him to others. He's really setting the bar this year.
Ball and no strikes to the Marlins backstop. Who takes a called strike. Last 10 for JT, hitting .351, couple of doubles, 4 home runs, 9 RBIs. Did not play on Saturday, so he's had 3 days to rest and recoup. And hopefully finish this season as strong as the first 5+ months have gone. Time call before the pitch.
Jacob DeGrom, he may very well sum up the Mets season, right? 28 starts this season, 8-8 record, 168 ERA. How about the Mets? 12-16 in his starts this season. I mean, that is hard to process.
Well, I know that I've joked about it as we kind of go through the out-of-town scores every 5th day when DeGrom is pitching, and we make the jokes, well, they're not scoring for him again. And I always liken it to Felix Hernandez a few years ago,
right.
And as we were
very similar season.
They are, and yet they're not. It's amazing. He is getting 0 run support, doing it all by himself. Back-to-back strikeouts, both looking, and there are 2 away.
Well, after walking to Ortega, really no messing around. The fastball command, back at it and quick. Couple of quick strikeouts to the middle of this Marlins lineup tonight.
Now Brian Anderson, 10 homers, 58 RBIs. Takes a ball down low.
Hey.
Anderson, as I mentioned before, hopefully can benefit from these couple of days off. September for him, just 1 hit in 19 at-bats with 11 strikeouts and 4 walks. And even though for the first 5 months of the season, in those rare pockets where he had been struggling, at least he had been getting his walks, but even that has been a little bit of an issue for him in these first week or so of September. The 1-1. Now for Brian Anderson, connecting on a home run against Jacob DeGrom. This was back in June.
Well, a beautiful swing. It was an elevated pitch at the belt. It was certainly a big moment for Brian Anderson. We talked about it at that time. Came through in the clutch.
But DeGrom strikes out the last 3 batters of the inning after a leadoff walk. Now we'll see Jose Urena when we come back. ball opposite of Jacob deGrom today. Let's take a look at the Mets starting lineup presented to you by Southwest. Ahmed Rosario in the top spot. They give you the particulars on him since the last time we saw the New York Mets a little while ago, but he's been hot. Michael Conforto with a home run over the weekend. Todd Frazier's been driving in some runs, and Brandon Nimmo come up with some big hits as well for the Mets. But Rosario takes a called strike from Jose Urena, who we haven't seen in a little while, of course, all these games and the six-man rotation and everything else. But this is start number 28 for Urena, and his last few, Holly, have been very, very good.
Yeah, particularly the last three, and it's certainly against some very formidable offenses. The Nationals, the Red Sox, and the Philadelphia Phillies, a 2.45 ERA in those three starts. Good slider there. That's certainly one thing that stands out to my eyes. Urena, the four-seam fastball, slider, and change, and he has come out in that first inning with a purpose. He's throwing strikes. He's attacking the zone. As you see right there, 4 pitches in, the first strikeout on the night. Let's get you the Marlins defensively for tonight's ball game. Behind Urena, Dean, Brinson, and Ortega. That's your outfield tonight. Anderson and Rojas left side of the infield. Castro, Dietrich the right side, and JT Realmuto making his 99th start behind the plate this evening. Now remember, he's made 8 starts over at first base. The starts behind home plate. That is 4th most in the National League.
So now it's Jeff McNeil taking a called strike. McNeil's been getting an extended look with the Mets and making most of that opportunity. A .340 average and 13 multi-hit games.
Well, McNeil really the beneficiary of the Asdrubal Cabrera trade. Remember, he was traded to the Philadelphia Phillies, so that opened up a spot on the Mets infield. Jeff McNeil has stepped in, as I mentioned, during the defense, is making his 35th start tonight, and he has been on an offensive tear, to your point, Paul.
Out toward left center field. Brinson ranging over, waves off Dean, and gallops over to make the play in the gap. 2 away. Well, fortunately, they are getting this one in tonight. The first pitch of it, and probably all of them tonight. Thankfully, get a game in. Haven't done that in a while. 73 degrees, high humidity, a little bit of a wind, and it's been overcast for most of the day. There's about a 20-minute period today where I asked you, what is that? And you said, I believe that's the sun.
Right. Well, I think what we're all dealing with right now is not the rain. It's the high humidity. It's reminding us of South Florida.
That's right.
Now, there's nothing wrong with feeling like we're at home, but we're not at home.
No. Yeah, it was so humid today that we walked in and it looked like it had rained inside.
Yeah. Well, the floors were wet. Just about everywhere you go, that heavy air just kind of settling in. You can feel it here in the ballpark. You can almost see it in center field. Good changeup by Urena. Throw out some batting averages against over those 3 pitches here over the 3-game stretch, which really stands out to me because it's been his best 3-game stretch of the year. 195 against the fastball.
Out to left field. Dean onto the track will make the catch. A strikeout and 2 flyouts in the first for Urena. New York, present day, of course, this city, our country, changed a great deal in 2001 as the Marlins and Mets play baseball in New York, and certainly special to be here in this city on this day as Derek Dietrich leads it off. And it takes a ball upstairs. Dietrich, Brinson, and Rojas for the Marlins here in the top of the second inning against Jacob deGrom, who walked Ortega and then struck out Castro, Realmuto, and Anderson. Dietrich back at first base tonight, 16 homers, 44 RBIs. I mentioned it in the open, and I would love to get your thoughts on it. There are some folks out there who are trying to do the math. Of course, Nola has had a great year in Philadelphia, and Scherzer has had another great year in Washington, D.C. Those have kind of been the three individuals in the conversation for the NL Cy Young. And people have looked at the last couple of days with the weather and moving deGrom back, trying to do the math on how many starts he has left and how this could affect his Cy Young case. But the way I see it, he's got it in the bag.
Yeah, well, and I think the information that I have in front of me, and of course we've had a lot of extra days to put that information together, if you know what I mean. The Marlins haven't played since midday on Saturday.
Right.
You're absolutely right. I couldn't agree with you more. It's what, you know, the AutoNation scouting report, key number one, Cy deGrom. It's kind of where you go. He's gotten better with each pitch he's thrown this season, and that's what we continue to see. The question is, will the Mets respond offensively? And to your point, 7th lowest run support among all the starters this year, 3.57 runs a game. And there's a little story I would tell you, but I'm kind of waiting for the offense, maybe when deGrom gets up.
Dietrich pops this one up behind home plate, and Plawecki is able to make the catch. That's out number one here in the second.
Look into the all-new Miami Marlins membership. It all starts here for the 2019 season with this new rewards and experiences. Get access to exclusive off-season member events, one-of-a-kind memorabilia, and a chance to swing for your sweet seats at Marlins Park. Well, by September 14th to secure bonus savings and incentives at marlinsenrollment.com.
One out for Lewis Brinson. Cuts and misses at the 97-mile-an-hour offering from deGrom. Brinson was 0 for 4 on Saturday. That snapped an 8-game hit streak. But even with that, over his last 9 games, hitting .361.
Yeah, you look at some of the numbers that deGrom has been putting up, Paul. Like, how about 69.1% strike percentage? That is tops in all of Major League Baseball. What does that tell you? He's attacking the strike zone. So when he's putting up a 168, it's not like, well, you know, he's nibbling or he's moving around guys in the lineup. Maybe he's picking his spots to be aggressive. I mean, there's certain ways you can look at this. When you pair that with 14.8 pitches per inning, oh, by the way, third fewest in Major League Baseball, this is a man whose stuff has played at the highest level all season long.
Right side, giving it a look is Dominic Smith, but he'll run out of room. And it's still 0-2. But back to Brinson. We mentioned Jeff McNeil when he came to the plate. Last 10 days, a .423 average for Lewis Brinson.
He has been absolutely fantastic. I think with each start, he's maybe fair to say he's gotten better. At least that's how it's appeared. Swings are getting better, the confidence, the exit velocity.
And that already the 4th strikeout tonight for deGrom. 2 outs here in the second. Don't forget, coming up in the 7th inning, it is the Ram game break. Check back in studio. As Miguel Rojas gets set to dig in and face deGrom with to away in inning number 2. Fouls it back, 0-1.
And we certainly already have seen deGrom lighting up the radar gun, high velocity. Of course, the strikeouts following 9 double-digit strikeout performances this season. In fact, he is actually coming off one as one of his last starts. Not his last start, well, 2 starts ago. 10 strikeouts at Wrigley Field against a hot Cubs lineup. 8 innings, 1 earned run.
Now the 1-1 to Rojas misses a little outside. 2-1. Mickey's been getting the bulk of the playing time the last few weeks. And at shortstop the last week or so, with JT Riddle and a nagging injury for him. So Rojas gets the start at short tonight against DeGrom. Fouls this one back to even things up. 2 balls and 2 strikes. The last time out for DeGrom was against the Dodgers, and he broke Doc Gooden's single season major league record, which he set in 1985. 3 earned runs or fewer for a 25th consecutive start. I think if you look it up in Webster's dictionary, that's what shows up under consistency.
Well, and the thing that's so interesting about DeGrom, and I know that there's some other names that we're all familiar with. Now, they've done it over 2 seasons. Like if you look at Arrieta and Kluber, they've strung together 25 consecutive starts of 3 earned runs or less, but over multiple seasons, where the story started and maybe finished in season 2. DeGrom has done that all this season.
Up the middle, Rosario gets to it, spins and throws, and a pretty play behind DeGrom, who sets the Marlins down in order in the second. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Miami Marlins and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Miami Marlins. We might have seen him in Boston. Marlins fan going up and down 95. Checking out the Marlins on the road. Todd Frazier, Brandon Nimmo, Dominic Smith against Jose Urena, who set the Mets down in order in the first, and his first pitch to Frazier in there on the inside corner for a called strike. And now the other corner, 0-2.
A couple of career starts here at Citi Field for Urena. How about a .75 ERA and 2 wins? He likes it here. Confidence is high and his stuff has been working, certainly over the last 3 starts.
StatCast AI powered by AWS. The distribution of balls on the ground on the infield off the bat of Todd Frazier. Certainly shortstop and to the left, his favorite spots. Count even up 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Yeah, Todd Frazier, very much a pull hitter. We don't see this too often now. The outfield kind of playing right in line with the wedges. You see the outfield as well. Kind of see where Starlin Castro is. Brinson right there as well.
Makes the play in center for the first out in the second. Again, 2 games come your way tomorrow. A single admission doubleheader here at Citi Field means they'll just play the games back to back. On the air with the Marlins Live pregame show at 3:30. Trevor Richards and Zach Wheeler, the 2 starting pitchers tomorrow afternoon, or late afternoon. And then the second game of that double dip will be a half hour, 45 minutes or so after the conclusion of game 1. And we'll finally see Jeff Brigham a second time tomorrow night. I feel like he's been waiting almost 2 weeks in between starts. It's been about 10 days. You know, he's excited to get back on the hill as Brandon Nimmo takes inside. To Brigham, who's in the middle of your shot. To his right, Sandy Alcantara will go in the series finale on Thursday before the Marlins head to Philadelphia.
How about Alcantara's last start? I'll tell you what, I'm not sure we've seen dominance quite at that level this season. Tell you what, Urania's certainly trying tonight. He has been on his game. Second strikeout. Let's take another look. 2-seam fastball. Arm side run, throws it to the inside part of the plate, maybe a little bit up. Plenty of movement back towards the middle and plenty of velocity.
Now Dominic Smith.
Since being suspended, Urania has really returned in a dominant fashion. And really one thing that stands out to my eyeballs, how about 65% strikes? It's one thing that he has done particularly well. I know he's fallen behind here 2-0, but on the season, 62.8. That's the strike percentage on the season. He's up to 65 now over his last 3. So again, kind of setting the bar to career mark. And we know he's been throwing lots and lots of strikes, but he's kind of taking it to another level.
Well, the skipper talked about that today when asked about Jose Urania and what's been going right for him the last few times out. Really, the word that he used was just aggressiveness. And that's exactly how he has been attacking. I know that pitching coach Juan Nieves has been happy with what he has seen. As Smith out to right field, that will fall in front of Ortega for either team's first hit. And it comes with 2 outs in the bottom of the second. But the last 3, first the base hit for Smith.
Dominic trying to take full advantage of some playing time. He hasn't gotten a whole lot. He's struggled a bit, but is swinging the bat much better here on the homestand. Now 3 for 7. So it was a double and a home run.
So Austin Jackson steps in, takes low. First career complete game over Washington for Urania. Then the 4 earned in 6 innings against Boston. And then 4 hits and 1 run in 7 innings against Philadelphia. But just the way that he has been attacking hitters has caught a lot of people's attention over this last 3-4 weeks.
And you know, it in a weird sort of way goes back to August 15th. Now the only reason I point it out is because it's basically been since the suspension, since the incident in Atlanta.
Couple of hops. Rojas gets to it and flips to Castro. Touch on that a little bit later. End of 2 in New York. and Rafael Ortega for the Marlins. We've told you about the 25 straight starts, 3 runs or less. Now, Ryan Stanek comes with a little bit of an asterisk. Of course, he has been a lot of it. Been one of the openers for the Tampa Bay Rays. You go back to 1910, King Cole on that list. Now, if you're like Holly and I,
any relation to Nat?
I have no idea, because I know everything else about King Cole, as you do too. I mean, the amount of hours that we put in just batting around facts of King Cole, it's unbelievable. That right back up the middle. DeGrom fortunately got out of the way. Dean is retired. So King Cole, this was a list that Holly put together.
All right.
What's not true?
I love it.
And he was the not true first Cub to throw a no-hitter. Gave up Babe Ruth's first hit. The movie Alibi Ike featured Olivia de Havilland. It was based on him, one of your favorite films. The second cousin of publisher William Randolph Hearst, where the manager fined him $50 for ruining the team poker games for playing too slow. 4 of these are true. There is one that is not true.
He is not the second cousin of publisher William Randolph Hearst.
I'm going to go with that Alibi Ike, which I thought was, you know, widely regarded as one of the best films of its time. It's probably a great movie that I've never seen. and I'm like mocking it as though it's Citizen Kane or something. But all right, let's find out which one is not true, folks. Wow. Apparently that was Olivia de Havilland's first film. First hit for Babe Ruth was a double. And $50 for playing too slow, which in 1910-ish, $50.
Absolutely.
That's a.
You impressed that I knew that?
That's a king's ransom.
You are, well played. You impressed that I knew that? You know what I know best?
Randolph Hearst?
No, our producer.
Oh, yeah. Well, true.
That's what I figured out over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Our guy, Johnny Salser.
Spent 3 days putting that together. either he spent 3 days, or he's so smart he spent 20 minutes.
It's like I'm not busy trying to figure out the puzzle. I'm trying to get in his head. That's what I'm doing. Like, where did he go with this?
Right. Right. It will be an 0-2 to Ortega, who is called out on strikes. Another 2 Ks in the inning for DeGrom. He is up to 6 through 3.
on right now between Jacob deGrom and Jose Urena. It is also a Tuesday, so you know what that means. It's time for another edition of a Twitter and email Tuesday. And tonight we are keeping the topics wide open. Here's how you can get in touch with us. You can send emails to foxmarlins@gmail.com. You can send those tweets to @foxmarlins, and be sure to use tonight's hashtag Twitter Tuesday. Guys.
Thank you very much. As we play on into the bottom of the third inning. The ways to contact us throughout the night. Kevin Plawecki takes a ball inside. 1-1. Plawecki, deGrom, Rosario. 8-9-1 for the Mets against Urena. Inside. 2-1. A recent injury to Devin Mesoraco. Playing time now split behind the plate between Plawecki and Tomas Nido for the New York Mets.
Plawecki getting the majority of the deGrom starts. That is for sure. The Mets doing everything possible to help deGrom's case as best they can, including Sunday. Young man, you will not be starting today in drippy circumstances. Wet playing field. No, we're going to move you back. Wait till the field's a little drier.
Right. Right.
There he is. Listen, you earned that mark. You certainly earned that banner, and he wears it well.
And you, this is a little teaser for about 30 seconds from now. You have been sitting on a note.
I've been sitting on a few notes on deGrom, but the next one's a good one.
deGrom's offense
right.
For about 2 weeks.
Well, it kind of gets together with the entire story. Hey, Marlins fans, now you can stream games live on your mobile device with Fox Sports Go, presented by Coors Light. Download the app and take Fox Sports Florida and Marlins baseball wherever you go. All right, we told you about deGrom this season. Well, right off the top, this one's worth keeping track of. Oh, he's swinging away. How about it? All right, you ready? 8 wins, 10 hits, 5 RBIs. He's got more hits than he's got wins this season. We've been kind of sitting on that one for a little while, but you know what's so interesting is you look at his last 2 starts, and you talked about his last start. I talked about the start before it at Wrigley Field. Now, in both of those games, he got exactly 1 run of support while he was on the mound.
Right.
1 run. You know who drove in those runs?
Does he look anything like Jacob
He
deGrom?
looks like himself in the mirror. That's right. That guy. He drove in his only runs in those starts. I mean, I find that amazing. September 3rd against the Dodgers, allowed the Turner home run, but responded with an RBI single that actually tied the game up. We believe he got a no decision in that start. August 28th, the start before that, a no decision. 8 innings, 10 Ks. He drove in the Mets' only run with a 6th inning single.
Squares to bunt, fouls it back, a ball and 2 strikes.
He's to the point now where he's like, fine, I'll just do it my own self.
Yeah, that's and he is, from everything that I have seen, and if there have been any hiccups, then forgive me for missing it, but he has handled all of the offensive struggles of the Mets in his starts very well.
Absolutely.
I mean, he could, after every start, go out there and just throw his team under the bus. He has not done that. Down the left field line, but that'll slice into the seats.
Right. I don't think anybody would argue if you say, even if he just played the frustrated card.
Right.
He's been so good that, when you start to talk to what many of us believe will be the National League Cy Young Award winner in 2018, when you talk to him, and the media fall victim to this as well, what you say is always going to be right, and it's always going to be the truth, and I think it's not very debatable. Even here in New York, if he wanted to go that route, people would support him and say, yeah, well, sure, we get it. He's never once gone there.
AT hung on to that one for a strikeout, the 3rd of the night for Urena. And back to the top of the order for the Mets and Ahmed Rosario. Well, 1 turn through for Urena. Pretty impressed to this point in just his demeanor.
Tell you, it's the one thing that really stands out to me, as I mentioned, since the suspension. I mean, we've watched Urania, and we've certainly seen him be good before, but this stretch seems to me to be different.
Fields his position, throws to second. Castro bobbles it, but on the transfer, so Plawecki retired, and Rosario will reach first base.
Let's take another look. One hopper, Urania, nice job getting off the mound. Pretty decent throw, maybe a little bit behind Starlin, but certainly secured the catch. Little transfer to the throwing hand is where the ball gets bobbled. And he certainly does it a number of times, but he's not going to throw that baseball.
Even his throws to second base have some arm side run.
Sure they do.
So Rosario on at first. Jeff McNeil comes to the plate. 2 outs in the bottom of the third. McNeil a fly out to Brinson back in the first inning. Nothing in 1 to McNeil, who on this homestand for the Mets with that fly out in the first inning, now 7 for 14.
And he's coming off back-to-back 3-hit games. He is one of the few Mets, now of course we're talking a smaller sample size, that has really taken to hitting here at Citi Field. Now, most guys, their numbers are better on the road this season. They don't like this ballpark. It doesn't seem to fit this group, or at least they've been better since the All-Star break. Maybe that's the point, and probably the right way I should say that. But when you're hitting 475 in a month's worth of games here at Citi Field, you take note. He's only hitting 250 on the road. He loves to hit at home.
Another check on Rosario over at first base.
Well, to make that point, the Mets have won 11 of their last 19 here at home, but 30 and 41 on the season. Batting average, on base percentage, slugging, and runs all last in the National League.
To left for Dean, and Urania strands a Met in the third. Severino, Todd Hollingsworth, and Jessica Blaylock with you. The Flatiron Building in downtown New York City. Starlin Castro to lead things off. JT Realmuto and Brian Anderson in the fourth inning. Time for AARP Take on Today. We look at Starlin Castro against Jacob deGrom, a .368 hitter. Good numbers against anybody, especially a guy who is putting together a historic run not only in 2018 but the last few years for deGrom. Did strike out back in the first inning, the first of what has become 6 strikeouts for deGrom, the first 10 batters faced. Well, we've talked an awful lot and probably will continue to about deGrom, but how about the New York Mets as of late? As that one is outside for ball 4. Castro walks to lead things off in the 4th.
It's easy to beat the heat when you become an energy saving expert. Go to FPL.com/beattheheat.
The Mets have won 19 of 31 games since August 7th. That's the 3rd best record in the National League in that span. Only St. Louis and Colorado have been better in the last calendar month or so. If you go all the way back to July 2nd, the Mets have the best record among the teams in the National League East.
Well, that offense has started to kick into gear. 4.85 runs per game, 233 runs total since the All-Star break. I mean, that's really what it gets down to, and I think that's why, if you're a Mets fan, optimism for next season still exists. One of the best young rotations in the game. deGrom only 30 years old. Syndergaard, Wheeler has really turned the corner. And you can argue they may have the best rotation setting up for 2019 already. I mean, depending, you got free agency, and again, I'm way out in front, but you know where I'm going.
This one chopped right side. Smith. It's a fair ball, and they'll throw to second to get Castro. It's a tag play. And a 3-6 double play.
Now let's take another look. That ball chopped inside. You saw Starlin hesitate just a bit going into second base, maybe waiting and looking back for the umpire's call. If he's going to go, he's got to go. That's certainly not it. Dominic probably picked up on that peripherally, saw Starlin wasn't running hard and tried to make a play and ends up turning a double play. You watch Starlin, he's kind of hesitating for what reason, I don't know.
Now 2 outs for Brian Anderson. Grounds one up the middle. McNeil can't come up with it, and Anderson is on first base. Rule that one an infield single for BA. And that's the first hit tonight for the Marlins.
Well, this ground ball perfectly placed. We said many times maybe the approach against deGrom tonight, really looking for that first fastball. Finds a nice little line right back through the middle. Kind of had him played to pull on the left side. That ground ball. First hit for the Marlins.
Now Dietrich topped up behind home plate in the 2nd inning. Takes ball 1. You mentioned Wheeler. Wheeler gets the ball for game 1 tomorrow. Then it's Jason Vargas and Steven Matz in games 3 and 4. And one starter we will not see is Noah Syndergaard. And the question around Syndergaard is, how healthy is he? He was hit with a comebacker toward the end of his outing on Saturday. But again, when he is on, he is scary in more ways than one. So yes, to your point, this is a terrific rotation. Just for some reason, the entire club has had a tough time putting it together this year.
Well, health has been an issue. You're talking offensively, certainly in the rotation as well. Just about everybody has spent a little time on the DL, except deGrom. He's been in the rotation all season long, taking the ball just about every 5th day.
Ball and 2 strikes, 2 outs with Anderson off of first. Here it comes upstairs at 98 miles an hour, 2-2. Again, 2 games tomorrow. Yeah, you take a half day from work. You've got my permission. Your boss will understand. South Florida Honda dealers present Marlins Live, the pregame show. And we will get to know the award-winning voice of the Jumbo Shrimp, Roger Hoover. Congratulations to him. He'll be a part of the pregame show tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Again, on the air at 3:30. Single admission, double dip. Southern League Broadcaster of the Year, Roger Hoover. More on that tomorrow. So there's a pregame show, a postgame show that also is kind of a pregame show, and then a postgame show tomorrow. So just flip it on Fox Sports Florida right around 3:25-ish. Lose the remote, and you'll be set. The velvet voices of yours truly, Holly, put you right to sleep tomorrow night.
That's right.
In a good way. Not the usual way like we do every other night. This one pooped into left field, and a 2-out base hit for Dietrich. So back-to-back singles for the Marlins here in the 4th inning against DeGrom.
Well, one thing the Marlins have done well against DeGrom this year, and maybe that's too strong a word, they've done it better than everybody else is maybe the right way to say it, is kind of just take what DeGrom gives. You don't see big swings, guys coming out of their shoes. Remember, he's throwing 97, 98. We've already gone through the off-speed arsenal. Even Dietrich there, DeGrom was convinced he could get him out at the top of the zone, shortened up just a little bit with 2 strikes and dumped one in left field.
Now it's Brinson.
Yeah, big swings in DeGrom, no bueno.
Brinson a strikeout back in the 2nd inning. Just a .143 batting average against, with runners in scoring position for Jacob DeGrom. 0-2. Brinson out to center field. This one hit well, sends Austin Jackson way back, and that one's off the base of the wall. Anderson will score. Dietrich in behind him, and Lewis Brinson has done it again.
Get it done. I'll tell you what, word around the National League is probably going to be out soon. If you think that you could put Lewis Brinson away with an elevated fastball right now, think again. Not even Jacob DeGrom can climb the ladder against Lewis Brinson. All over it. We saw this in Pittsburgh. Went the other way at, what, 96? Well above the strike zone, above the letters, and gets him again off the base of the wall in center field. Short, quick stroke.
And what did you just say? Big swings against DeGrom, no bueno?
Hey, no bueno. But you saw the difference in the Brinson swing right there.
Right.
You even go back to his first at bat, the strikeout, you saw some big swings from Lewis. Lewis was kind of coming out of his shoes. I'm going to look first pitch fastball and try to meet it with my swing speed and his velocity, thinking it was going to work. Shorten up, choke up, put the ball in play, and look what ends up happening. Even a moderated swing, modified swing, I should say, works off the base of the wall in center field.
A walk, a double play, an infield single, a bloop single, and a 2-run double to straightaway center field. Marlins battling, doing their damage with 2 outs here in the 4th inning. The 0-2 to Miguel Rojas, sent the other way down the right field line, but this will reach the seats. It's only the top of the 4th inning, but just looking at how the statistics play out, both of these two starting pitchers haven't got many runs all year long. So
well, I mean, that's why you didn't hear me say when we came on the game, you know, when we opened the show up tonight, you know, like this is gonna be a pitcher's duel. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody that's followed DeGrom or has followed Urania all season long knows there probably won't be a whole lot of runs scored in this one.
Well, the Marlins have the first 2 on a 2-run double by Lewis Brinson. Now Rojas continues to battle, fighting off another one. Brinson off of second. Rojas awaits a 1-2 pitch. Here comes from DeGrom. Swung on and missed. But Brinson drives home 2. Just missed a home run. Face of the wall in center. Brought to you by Southwest. Transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. The Cleveland Clinic. Stiff joints, aches, and pains. Trust Cleveland Clinic, Florida, the #1 orthopedic care in Florida. And by Simply Healthcare. Live the Simply life. Nice night here in New York City. And a big hit by Lewis Brinson. A 2-run double off the base of the wall. Right behind him in center field. 408 to dead center. That ball had to be about 406, 407. Just missed a 3-run home run, but he'll take the double nonetheless. And speaking of 2 base hits, Michael Conforto may have one to start the home half of the 4th inning. He does. And he pulls one into the right field corner off of Urania.
Yeah, that's the response the Mets certainly looking for after a couple of runs score against their ace DeGrom. Conforto leads off the bottom of the 4th inning on the 2nd pitch, rips it into that right field corner. It's a slider, 87 miles an hour. Short, compact swing. I'll tell you, Conforto's really been swinging it over the last couple of weeks. Stays hot here in the 4th.
So he is in scoring position for Todd Frazier, who flew out to Brinson in his first at-bat. Takes a called strike.
About the last 30 games, the Mets have been getting type of production they thought they would get from the 32-year-old Frazier. 24 RBIs, 18 runs in his last 30 games.
Chopped wide of third, a ball and 2 strikes. Well, he had 6 homers in August with 20 RBIs. He was activated August 2nd. Missed about 4 weeks with a left rib cage strain. So yeah, since coming back, he's been rather productive. But his home run Saturday, his first since August 29th. Does have 17 of them on the year. Guy who's won a home run derby or 2 in his past as well.
He's kind of reinvented himself a little bit here over the last couple of seasons. Early on in his career, you saw the power, you saw the RBIs, but you also saw the batting average and the doubles, and maybe that on-base percentage was skewed just a little bit. He's become more of your, 3 true outcomes type of hitter. You see the home runs traditionally, of course, a little bit down this year. He's missed some time on the DL.
Lined and caught. Rojas takes away a base hit. Lunging to make the play for the first out in the 4th inning is Miggy.
I'll tell you what, it certainly feels like a huge play right now. Bonefish Grill, fresh catch of the day. Step and a dive into the hole. Nice job by Miggy Rojas. Done a fantastic job at the shortstop position this year. Great instincts there, and certainly at least took away a 1st and 3rd situation. Really changed the tempo of this inning.
Well, that's one sort of a bat flip, I suppose.
Yeah, that's the angry bat flip.
That's the frustration bat flip, yes. A nice play for the first out. And now it's Brandon Nimmo. Struck out looking back in the 2nd inning. Strikeout for Nimmo. He's got the highest strikeout percentage on the club. But 16 homers, 44 RBIs, has also been a really big run producer for this team.
Well, he's done just about everything else right. Now you point out the strikeouts. Certainly worth noting. 16-game on-base streak, 423 average, 531 on-base percentage, 14 runs. He takes his walks as well.
Leadoff double in this inning for Conforto. Brinson double has given the Marlins a 2-0 lead. 3-0 pitch to Nimmo on the outside corner, 3-1. Just about that same spot. Now 3-2.
Yeah, that's how good his control really has been. His last 3 starts, now 4 starts, doubling up just off the edge. And listen, he's not letting up to get there either. That's what's so impressive. 95 on the first pitch, 96 on the last one.
Nimmo grounds one to first base. Dietrich will take it himself, and up to third goes Conforto now with 2 outs.
Join the Marlins on September 20th for Social Media Night when they take on the Reds. Purchase a ticket package and receive a Social Media Night t-shirt. The opportunity to have your social media content run pregame on Marlins Vision. For tickets, visit marlins.com/social media.
Two down for Dominic Smith, who had a single back in the second inning. Oh, 0-1. Marlins have 3 on the right side of the infield against Smith. Anderson, even with the third base bag, off the line a little bit. Oh, 0-2. Consistently in the mid-90s the last 5-6 starts, whatever it's been. We've seen 97s consistently, 98s at times from Urania. This one sent out to right field, and Ortega is there. The leadoff double stranded. Nice job by Urania through 4 scoreless. Here at Citi Field in Queens, first of a 4-game series against the New York Mets. Going to be here quite a bit over the duration of the 2018 regular season. This 4-game series, which now will be condensed into 3 games, and then the final series of the year. 3 games here at Citi Field.
Series hasn't been condensed into 3, though, I don't think.
3 days. 3 days.
3 days, right.
4 games. Did I say 4
right.
games in 3 days?
So we actually, so what you're saying is we've got more games here in New York left than we've got in Miami.
Correct.
7-6.
Correct. My guess is the Marlins will be wearing home whites by the last game of the year.
Let's hope that day's not a doubleheader somehow, some weird way. The way the rain, this hurricane that's coming into the East Coast.
Oh. Yeah, a lot of places and teams certainly have been affected. As Dean tips one foul at the plate, 2 balls and 2 strikes. The Washington Nationals, they had a rough go over the weekend. They had the doubleheader against the Chicago Cubs that they sat through about 74 hours of rain for that, just to wrap it all up. And then yesterday, fast forward to yesterday, no rain in Philly, but they had blowtorches out on the field because the grounds crew left the tarp off,
Something
expecting
happened.
less rain. So now they're playing a doubleheader today, which the Nats won in the afternoon, and the Nats are leading right now in the 4th inning.
I believe they've already won a game already today.
Yeah,
3-1.
But yeah, they had blowtorches on the field because
their cell phones didn't work on Saturday.
Quote unquote wet conditions.
Hey, Bobby.
Soggy.
Hey, the forecast has changed. You think now? Listen, I clearly don't know the entire story, but the way that this has kind of gotten out there with the blowtorches and well, the field didn't get covered while the team was out of town is turned into a bit of a story.
Yeah.
But let's be honest. It didn't cross anybody's mind in between that things might be changing with the forecast.
Evidently not.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
It's certainly not helping the Philadelphia Phillies this afternoon. You were talking about the games that the Nationals were playing. I'll tell you, there's nothing worse than getting stuck in those types of series when you're not the ones playing for the postseason.
All right.
And that's clearly, they certainly believed that they were going to be one of those teams this year, but those games get tougher. And you're kind of at the ballpark for 16, 18 hours, it feels like, and you're playing because the games mean more to the team you're playing against.
That's 8 strikeouts for DeGrom, 2 away for Rafael Ortega here in the 5th. But isn't it kind of the story of the Nationals season this year that every time, what's the old the line? Every time I'm out, they keep pulling me back in. Like every time you want to count them out, they win like 4 out of 5.
Right.
You're like, oh, maybe they're still alive.
Well, it's fair to argue applied pressure. I mean, that's kind of the way I think a lot of people, guys around the game, analysts would see that as, they just haven't really dealt with the pressure this year of being a contender. It's like every time you stop staring at them, they seem to start elevating their game. They're a very attractive team to the eyes, on paper.
Yeah.
Scherzers and Harpers and Sotos and the likes. Certainly many people would have picked them to win this division.
Ortega with a fly ball out to center field. Austin Jackson is there. And DeGrom is through 5 innings. But the Marlins have a 2-0 lead. Flash you back. Geico presents this day in Marlins history. September 11th, 2006. 16-5. Marlins won the game. 3 homers, 7 RBIs for Cody Ross.
Have a day.
It's a nice week.
Yeah, that's certainly an awesome afternoon for Cody. Nice career.
Austin Jackson takes a called strike. Jackson, Plawecki, DeGrom here in the 5th. That night, this day 12 years ago, was the last time a Marlin had a 3-homer game. So every time somebody's got multiple home runs, that's the night we refer to.
Right. It's no small feat. It's not like talking, Coors Field or some of your other hitters' parks.
Right.
In fact, we talk Marlins Park. completely other side of this conversation.
Yeah, it's hard to hit 3 in a week there.
That's right.
Sometimes.
So when you see somebody like JT Realmuto, and I'm still kicking myself over this, his 2-homer game at Marlins Park, that we didn't even bring it up as last at bat. We really didn't. I mean, we didn't even think that, well, you know, this is getting ready to happen here. If you remember correctly, he had about a 400-foot rocket just to the edge of the warning track in center field. Not one word from me. I felt like I had not done my job well that night.
It's quite all right. We've docked your pay and we're moving forward.
Like so many hitters think, just blame the ballpark.
Right.
It's the ballpark's fault.
Sure, why not? You know, Brinson had a multi-home run game earlier this year in Milwaukee.
Well, and you know, it was funny because we were all ready for that one. I think that's when we brought Cody up again. If I remember correctly.
That's what I'm saying.
We did refer to Cody in that series.
You're right. A strikeout of Jackson to begin the 5th, and now Plawecki. A ball and a strike on the Mets backstop, who walked in the 3rd inning. To this point, the only walk issued by Urania, to go along with 4 strikeouts. There's a ground ball to Rojas. Dug out by Dietrich. Nice job for out number 2. The Toyota inside look. Worst home records since the start of 2017. New York Mets 67 and 85 here at Citi Field. I think you can make a case it's not always the pitching. You documented what the offense has done here this year. Well, like clockwork, isn't it?
Well, they're not going to help you help yourself. Well, anyway, you can anyway. This a 2-out single. You know he's got a hitting streak now.
Yeah,
it's funny. I didn't even bother to go back past the 2 games. I know his hitting streak's at least 3 games. Well, this is certainly worth mentioning, and I know that we chuckle at it. Of course, you and I don't work for the Mets. 11 hits, 8 wins this season.
Even Jose is like, well, you know, what can you do? And it's just been one of those years for DeGrom where it just seems like everything has turned out right for him. And now Rosario, the fly ball out to right field. Easy for Ortega. And DeGrom's hit means nothing. 2-0 through 5. the NL East. At the start of the day, it was at 13. So with the Phillies' loss earlier this afternoon, it's down to 12. If that score holds, it's 11. And the Braves are out west in San Francisco later on tonight. Could get it down to 10.
Yeah, well, they're taking full advantage of the Giants team that's struggling. And again, that's kind of what we're talking about now. The Philadelphia Phillies, though, this is kind of the eye-opener. For me, anyway. I mean, listen, their struggles on the road, well documented this season. But they've played particularly well at home. And that's kind of been their safe haven. No matter who they're going up against, they've played fantastic baseball in Philadelphia. To see them, if the second game goes this way, to lose a doubleheader today, my goodness, that would be pretty tragic for the Philadelphia Phillies.
McNeil fields that one off balance, makes the play to retire Castro for the first out here in the 6th inning. JT Realmuto up next, the subject of our Florida Lottery in-game jackpot. Among catchers, 3rd in average, tied for 3rd in homers, 4th in RBIs, 1st in extra base hits, and 6th in on-base percentage. That is among catchers or as a catcher. Of course, he's got the 20 homers overall.
Now, that doesn't show his defensive numbers. Well, listen, this is like a math equation. You know what that all equals? All-Star game.
Yes.
His first All-Star appearance here in 2018. Well-deserved. He's finishing this season strong. Good to see.
Certainly making a strong case for a Silver Slugger award.
I like it. Yeah, I like how you're thinking. That's a great call.
This one straight up, drifting back to the backstop, but Plawecki will have room for out number 2. Chevrolet Prospect Spotlight. Focus in on the fireballer, Jorge Guzman. 96 innings and a 154 whip. It was one of the guys that the Marlins got back in that Giancarlo Stanton deal, along with Starlin Castro in there as well. And a guy who can regularly rush it up there at about 100. There's Brian Anderson. His infield single with 2 outs in the 4th started a rally. So far, that 2-run double by Brinson has been the difference with 2 outs here in the 6th. Anderson cuts and misses, a ball and 2 strikes. On the ground to McNeil at second. DeGrom has retired 7 Marlins in a row since that 2-run double. Right now, it's the Marlins in front by a pair. here in Queens. Jose Urena matching DeGrom pitch for pitch, and in terms of the run column has been maybe a pitch better. 5 scoreless to this point, just 3 hits, a walk and 4 strikeouts.
Well, both guys kind of had a moment. I think that's maybe where you go with this. DeGrom fell victim to a great Brinson swing on a fastball up. Urena, despite giving up a leadoff double to Conforto, made the pitches in that inning, was able to get himself out of it without giving up any damage.
So McNeil will lead things off, and then the aforementioned Conforto and Todd Frazier here in the 6th. Couple of fly balls, one to center, one to left off the bat of the youngster McNeil. He once again sends it out to left field. It will be Dean for out number 1.
It's easy to beat the heat when you become an energy-saving expert. Go to fpl.com/beattheheat.
That'll bring up Conforto and that double back in the 4th inning. One of the 3 Mets hits tonight. Takes ball 1. Well, you know, Urena knows what he's doing. You know, we talked about it before, that he seems to be a little bit more aggressive as of late. He said after his last start, our plan was to attack. We can't give free passes. He's got only 1 walk tonight. When I'm aggressive, I can get weak ground balls. I've been in attack mode, and I know I have guys behind me. So, to your point, I don't know what clicked, but it was something. Brinson back. That one is over his head and over the wall. A home run to left center field for Michael Conforto, and it's a 1-run ball game.
I'll tell you what, nothing seems to be stopping the hot-hitting Michael Conforto. Is now homered in 3 consecutive ball games. He had a huge day on Sunday, and in fact, his last home run was to left field. His last 13 games, he's got 6 home runs. All over this fastball. I mean, this is a laser. We're not going to go ahead and talk launch angle on this one.
No. Low line drive that gets out and cuts the gap in half for the Mets. So now it's Frazier. Frazier fly out in the 2nd inning, and a line out on a nice step and a dive play by Miggy at shortstop back in that 4th inning. It was right after the Conforto double. Lowe's whole team together. We'll focus in on the New York Mets and the home runs allowed. Focus in on the Marlins too. Now 4 less than the New York Mets. Cincinnati Reds, granted, bit of a hitter's haven out there. Great American Ballpark tops on that list. Home runs allowed. Frazier pops this one up to short for Rojas. Steps Brandon Nimmo. Struck out looking in the 2nd, grounded out to Dietrich in the 4th. They check over 3rd, no swing.
Nimmo represented a big out for Urena and the Marlins in the 4th inning. He's able to get ahead 3-0. Urania worked back and got a weak ground ball to the right side, really bridged the gap to a shutdown inning.
When he's fallen behind, he's gone to that pitch,
well,
that spot.
This is why I kind of chuckled a bit there.
Yeah.
When Nimmo fell behind 3-0 and did that this exact same pattern. We're going to see if he can do it again. All right, that's the one variable. He picked up the strike, but that was his changeup and decided to kind of get it back in. But 3 strikes on that outside edge with arm side run.
Nimmo walk. It's a walk. So Nimmo draws the sprint with 2 outs here in the 6th inning.
It's 60th walk on the season.
Use that term loosely. And in steps Dominic Smith. Had the Mets' first hit back in the 2nd inning. A little low.
And the Mets have been trying to figure out over the last couple of seasons how Dominic Smith fits in their future, or even if he does fit in their future. Certainly one of their top prospects at one time. He's not only not hit at the major league level with any element of consistency.
They've tried him at some different positions too. Now he's sharing time at first with Jay Bruce, who's got the night off, the outfield, all kinds of stuff.
That's in part because he hasn't claimed a spot. We talk about it all the time, much like McNeil's been playing so great at second base for the Mets. Well, what do? You know, you get to play every day when you kind of put that type of production out there. They've kind of expected it from Smith, I suppose, on some level. Now he's a different type of hitter, but just hasn't all been able to add up. So kind of forced into that spot where he's not been playing every day. Hitting just 119 here at Citi Field, only the 6th hit this season. His single, first time up.
Nice pitch there by Urania to get through 6 innings. Did give up a home run in the inning. On this day of remembrance, USAA honors all of those who were lost and those who rose in service in response to the tragedy. On the New York Mets, a couple of changes for New York as McNeil moves over to third base and Wilmer Flores into the game to play second. Todd Frazier done for the day. He was ejected in between innings during his at-bat. A couple of pitches he didn't like. And an exchange with the home plate umpire Dan Bellino in between innings.
Now, what ends up happening a lot of times with hitters, they recognize a pitch that they know is a ball. This is the one that's really going to start to set them up. That's the slider. Calls it a strike again, and then swings. He's going to swing at one of these sliders. Here it comes. That's where the frustration just hits. It literally hits the boiling point, Paul. I mean, my goodness. As a hitter, you understand that strike zone grows a little bit at times, and certainly in that situation, you get set up. But as the at-bat develops, different things can happen in your mind. But when you ultimately end up putting in play a ball that you wouldn't want to swing at, and you pop it up the way Todd did, by the time he got back to the dugout, whoo, the Todd father had seen enough.
Dietrich takes a pitch outside. 2 balls and no strikes. Dietrich Brinson Rojas in the 7th against Jacob deGrom. Balls in a strike, 95 miles an hour, and the outside corner swung through. Well, at least 6 innings now in 26 of 29 starts this year for deGrom. That's rather consistent. He's gone at least 7 in 17 of the previous 28, and he's gone at least 8 in 8, which is the most in the majors this year. And a called strike 3. That's 9.
All right, I'll tell you what, Lewis Brinson has been on his game. Now, I talked about slowing that swing down. You saw that first swing of the ball game. My goodness, the ball by him at the top of the zone, and look at the swing. Big swing. Look at the knob of the bat. He's now choked up an inch, under control. Look at the front side. Quiet, short, compact, and a ball off the base of the wall in center field. That is an in-game adjustment, my friend.
It has been fun to watch. Again, right at the beginning of June, something seemed to click, some sort of adjustment that I'm sure you could speak to more than I. But it looked like it just got to a point where, and again, not to put words in his mouth, but it's almost like enough is enough. And he was making changes, and he's been working hard all year. But now there are results to back it up. This one is fouled straight back, a ball and 2 strikes.
Well, they're certainly starting to come more consistently. I mean, the one question that it raises in my mind after seeing it now twice on this road trip, the ability to hit elevated velocity a long, long way. He did it in Pittsburgh as well. Why doesn't he do it more often, though? You see him doing it here with 2 strikes, he's choking up. Ball off the outside edge. But we've seen so much production with the short, powerful, compact, I don't want to dare say small ball approach, just not as big a swing.
Just a 2-strike swing.
Well, yeah, why doesn't the 2-strike swing become the 1-strike swing, if you know what I mean?
I got you. I'll check over first.
Well, everybody processes things differently. I certainly understand that. It's worked for Brinson here, at least in terms of the ability to drive the ball with 2 strikes. I think deGrom will try and climb the ladder on him again at 97, 98 miles an hour. Listen, it's how hitters think. Pitch elimination. We talked about this in Pittsburgh, right? That's why he got the breaking ball from Archer that he hit for the home run. Archer's the one he got at the top of the zone.
This one sent out to deep right center field. Nimmo turning around and makes the play on the track. Well, Brinson gave it a ride. Right to that spot of that right center field wall that juts back a little bit for out number 2.
Join us for Comunidad 305 when we celebrate Miami's diversity on September 22nd. Purchase a package to receive an exclusive t-shirt and enjoy post-game entertainment by Giovetta. Tribute to Mark Anthony The fifth base presented by Corona Light. Purchase tickets at marlins.com/comunidad305.
Strike at the top of the zone to Miguel Rojas. I think that'll play, right? 70 strikes out of 101 pitches thrown for DeGrom.
That's that 69.1 I was telling you about at the beginning of the ballgame.
Ah, a little north of that now by a pitch.
Right there. See right there, 69.1%.
So he's
first in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, so he's consistent. Got 9 games this year with at least 10 strikeouts. As that one misses outside, a ball and 2 strikes. Smack foul into the seats.
Well, if you're going to key on one thing, and we have not really talked about this tonight, at least in regards to DeGrom, that he has done so much better this season than he did last year. Now, last year he had a 3.53 ERA, but he also gave up 28 home runs. This season he's only allowed 9.
And one of them was the one to Brian Anderson back in June that we showed you earlier.
Well, that's single-handedly, even if you were to just look at the earned runs that were attributed to the home runs and the difference between the two, if you take that out, it almost gets you down to that 1.68 ERA, which is what he came into tonight's ball game with. One thing he's done better this season, keep the ball in the yard.
This one grounded up the middle. Rosario off balance makes the play to get Miguel Rojas. 6.5 in the books here in New York, and on this September 11th we stay here at Citi Field for God Bless America.
First Lieutenant Jordan Laskowski, United States Marine Corps, stationed at Marine Corps Air Station New River, VMM 261, currently aboard the USS Pastime. Please rise and remove your caps for the singing of God Bless America.
Please welcome FDNY firefighter Regina Wilson.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet
Back here in New York, a ball and a strike on Austin Jackson. Then Kevin Plawecki and Jacob deGrom spot due up third this inning. deGrom up over 100 pitches. We'll see if he gets his at bat later in the 7th. But first things first, Jackson, who is 0 for 2. Ground out and a strikeout. Takes a little bit low, 3-1. Jackson's average on the season, 264 with the Mets, right around 290 at the start of the game. He works the leadoff walk, tying run aboard for the Mets here in the 7th. We saw Kyle Bearclaw up earlier in the top of this inning, but now Adam Conley is loosening as pitch coach Juan Nieves on the phone with Dean Traynor in the bullpen. 1 on and nobody out with Plawecki at the plate. Plawecki, one of the 3 walks issued by Urania, also a ground out back in the 5th inning. Looped and into the netting above the dugout. Jack Reinheimer in the on-deck circle, so that could be the end of the night for deGrom. Anthony Swarzak up for the Mets. Plawecki pops this one up, shallow left, long run back for Rojas, who's able to make the play. And back to first goes Jackson with 1 out. Reinheimer called back. It will be Jay Bruce into the on-deck circle. Bruce has missed about 2 months of this season, had a hip injury. Did homer in back-to-back games for him on September 4th and 7th. But all in all, a pretty rough year for Jay Bruce, who may, looks like may not, face Jose Urania. That is what Adam Conley was getting ready for, one would assume.
Urania at 99 pitches. Jay Bruce has swung the bat pretty well since coming back off the disabled list in late August. Certainly, I think his career tells you the story. He can hit one out.
Florida Lottery call to the bullpen here at Citi Field. Another nice outing for Jose Urania. In the bottom of the 7th, the new Monopoly jackpot scratch-offs from the Florida Lottery, our new spin on a classic. They're loaded with prizes from $10,000 to $2 million, so unleash the excitement anytime The Florida Lottery, it's your ticket. Must be 18 or older to play. Play responsibly. JT Riddle into the ball game at shortstop. So the other half of the double switch. Rojas out for Adam Conley. Here with 1 out in the 7th inning.
Well, for Adam Conley this season, lefty's hitting 209, righty's 220. He's given up a little bit of damage here over his last couple of starts, but one thing that really stands out is career against the Mets. This will be his 15th career game. Now remember, he was a starter at one point. He's got great numbers. How about a 1.68 ERA and just over 48 innings of work in his career against the Mets? Fastball, slider, change. Mid-90s fastball. Jay Bruce, he's going to get the pinch hit appearance. Jay 1 for 6 pinch hitting this season. He's had a rough go of it here at Citi Field, hitting just 191 at home. Hasn't fared much better against the lefties either. Even 200 batting average on the season in 80 at bats.
2 for 10 in his career against Adam Conley. A double and 4 strikeouts. The Mets box score, the low line drive home run to the left of center field for Michael Conforto, their only run to this point. The only blemish on the ledger for Jose Urena. But the runner on first base, Austin Jackson, his responsibility. Urena and DeGrom giving us exactly what we thought we'd have. A low-scoring affair, a pitcher's duel. 2-1 in the bottom of the 7th. Line right to Castro. And that is out number 2. Had him played perfectly.
MLB at Bat is your #1 Marlins app. Customize your experience to catch every moment this season. Get Marlins home screen icons and features such as MLB.tv Game of the Day, live radio broadcasts, in-game highlights, stats, news, and more. Download MLB at Bat today.
Back to the top of the order for Ahmed Rosario. Strikeout, fielder's choice, and a flyout. Well, Jacob deGrom has been so good this year. I think any starting pitcher would sign up for 7 innings, 3 hits, 2 earned runs. His ERA went up tonight. It is currently at 1.71.
He struggles against the Marlins. No, I'm just kidding.
I know that's
what it feels like, right? I mean, he's on the hook for the L tonight.
I know.
Unless the Mets do something right here.
In our open, I felt funny saying the Mets have his number because it was like a 3.3 ERA.
Hey, listen, I pointed it out. Listen, he comes in with a 3.32 ERA against the Marlins. Against teams he started against multiple times. I mean, now you're talking division teams. You're also talking a few other teams around the league. So no small sample size. And the reason I actually did the double was to not shortchange it in that, one start here, one start there. So we're talking some teams he sees. The Marlins have kind of held their own against him.
Yep. On the ground to Castro, who gets Rosario, and Urena's line is complete as Conley gets through the 7th. Marlins up 1. downtown New York. They fire that up once a year on this night. Lights going all the way up into the sky in downtown. Of course, September 11th, 2001, tragic day. T-Mobile built for baseball. A quick peek back at some of the pregame festivities. NYPD, FDNY hats. And a moment of silence. Say thank you to those who were courageous enough to go into the buildings when people were scurrying out, trying to help those that may or may not have made it on September 11th, 2001. The city has changed an awful lot, and in some cases, the positive, I think you could say it's changed for the better. I've lived around here for 7 years prior to this particular job, and the character of those who live here that have been through it, that have changed from it, is really something special. Been through something that you could never even imagine. Finding a way to move forward without some loved ones, some friends, coworkers. Anthony Swarzak in the game for the Mets as Austin Dean flies out to right. We check in with Jessica Blaylock.
Hey, Paul, like you mentioned, today is the day that we take time to remember all of those who were impacted by the horrific tragedy that took place in our country on September 11th. The Mets have a very special way that they pay their respects. Each year, several players and coaches visit a different fire station around New York. This year's group included guys like Steven Matz and Brandon Nimmo, just to name a few. They visited engine number 22 in the Upper East Side, where they spent time with men and women who served this city. And guys, you know that was such a special experience for everyone involved.
It certainly was, and the way that this Mets team, not this particular group, but the group that was here in 2001, I know the Yankees did some of the same stuff. In that week where there was no baseball, they were helping out any which way they possibly could, going to fire stations, trying to help out, food in hospitals, whatever it might have been, to try to help a community that was healing. And the first major sporting event in New York was a Mets game against the Atlanta Braves on September 21st.
And I think back to so many of the Mets and the baseball players that were, you know, obviously on the field that day, and the responsibility they had. They understood what it was. It wasn't about being a first responder. That was way more important. You know, the fire department, obviously way more important. The police department, like, everybody knew where they were supposed to be. And then when baseball was finally back on the field, my goodness.
JT Riddle has gone into the second deck in right field.
Welcome back.
A solo home run for JT. Yes, welcome back is right. His ninth, and it's 3-1.
He's had a couple of moments this year where, you know, JT kind of slides in, catches the pinch hit. Well, this is the second pinch hit home run this season. And JT just, you know, he makes your jaw hit the floor. I mean, it's not just a home run. It's an upper deck home run. It's a, wow, you've got that kind of power? Well, indeed he does. Turns around a fastball, inner third, up. How about it? What are you running for, JT? Slow down right there.
Extra calisthenics. He's been resting the last few days. One more look.
Let me correct myself. That's actually a pinch hit. 405 feet. First at bat of the ball game.
New pitcher Anthony Swarzak knew it immediately. Now 3-1.
I can see it. Yeah. You can see it though.
Rafael Ortega takes the ball in the dirt, 2-1.
Just to wrap the thought on 9/11, at least from my perspective, you know, the baseball players obviously involved. I think of the Piazza home run, former teammate of mine. What a big moment that was. But every baseball player understood his role. There's so much of, you know, that conversation. You think of, you know, baseball players play every day, you know, tough and, you know, go get them. The players themselves were in a secondary position there, and they embraced that role. And I thought it was so important for everybody to know that, listen, they were there as a way to kind of buffer everything that was going on. And when that game finally got back out on the field and everybody could appreciate that moment, You realized how important your first responders were, your fire department, your police. I mean, everything. Baseball took a back seat.
It took a back seat, and it also became a distraction. And
Correct. Yep.
those that were either around the game of baseball, or around that game on September 21st, as Ortega pops this one up to Flores for the second out, certainly remember it. And again, this was the first sporting event in New York on September 21st, and Mike Piazza going deep to center field. This was a goosebump moment, and still is to this day. I reached out to a couple of guys that I've known that were there in the ballpark. I asked John Smoltz, because the Braves were in town. I said, what do you remember about that night? And he said, we were there. I was in the bullpen getting ready to pitch when Piazza hit that home run. And all I can tell you is that the first time in my major league career, my professional career, losing didn't matter. You were almost like New York needed that home run for the city more than anybody else. It was unreal. The president threw out the first pitch. I mean, that was John Smoltz. I mean, he is one of the most competitive guys I know. And for him to take that step back and understand, I know Bobby Cox has said that. Like, if there was ever a game that we were okay losing, that was it.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Smoltz, former teammate of mine. I mean, you're right. I mean, this guy, listen, he's in the Hall of Fame for a reason.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. But, you know, you think to, you know, that moment in time, I think the whole world, I know my jaw hit the floor when Piazza hit the home run. Like, that's what needed to happen in that moment. Kind of represents we will overcome, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It really does. I think that home run from Piazza really spoke to not just Mets fans, not just Mike Piazza, not just winning the game, but to what everything in America stood for at that moment in time. Because I'll tell you what, that security blanket had been ripped in half. That we wake up and we live in the most powerful, safest country in the world. Everything became a question mark that day.
(3-1) Marlins. 3-2 pitch on the way from Swarzak to Castro. And a called strike three. Castro not in love with the call. Marlins get a run on the Riddle home run on a special and very somber night here in New York City. Tomorrow, single admission, so Marlins Live starts at 3:30. First pitch a little after 4. And then the second game shortly after that. Marlins Mets, second and third of this 4-game series. Trevor Richards and Zach Wheeler in the first game. Jeff Brigham in his second big league start against Jason Vargas in the nightcap. With you all day tomorrow starting at 3:30 on Fox Sports Florida. Jeff McNeil to lead things off. Adam Conley is on the mound. Couple of changes for the Marlins in right field. Sierra takes over for Ortega. And in left field, Isaac Galloway. 2 moves to help shore up the defense in what is a 2-run game thanks to JT Riddle's home run. Solo shot.
Good to get JT back out on the field. Boy, oh boy. Surprised me a number of times this year. JT has with some swings. Certainly no Riddle has power, but that was impressive. Upper deck shot. Big run in this ball game.
Well, we have seen that pull power. You say it all the time when he gets the barrel out front.
Oh yeah. But it's kind of come and gone. You know, it's at a few different times. I mean, we kind of jumped all over the national series. It started in DC, went home for a little bit. Good week. I think he was about 8 or 9 for 18 with 2 or 3 home runs, a bunch of RBIs. Really kind of thought he might turn the corner. Of course, there were some hits in there, but generally cooled off just a bit. And obviously dealt with the injury. But that home run was like, oh yeah, that's the guy in DC, remember?
Rolled up the first base line right over the bag, and Dietrich able to stay with that one. 1 out here in the 8th.
That's a really nice play by Double D over there. I'll tell you, even on a slow roller, as that ball's coming over that first base bag, you start to worry about it hitting and redirecting, and does a nice job. It's where the hockey goalie phrase kind of comes in. Just don't let it go through the wickets. You know what I mean? Keep it in front of you. Knock it down. You're right there. Great job by Dietrich.
I don't know if in these parts they know anything about a ball going through a first baseman's legs on a ball like that. I don't think they remember Buckner at all.
Buckner was a Cub.
Not that night.
He was wishing he was a Cub that night.
I think the Red Sox are over it now. That was the last time the Mets have won a World Series back in 1986. I think the call went roller behind the bag, and it gets through Buckner, and the Mets win it.
Yeah, I think it went something like that.
Yeah. Conforto's home run, the only run tonight for the Mets, fouls that one back 2-2. Conforto has 2 of the Mets' 4 hits, a double in the 4th to lead things off. He was stranded, and then the home run and a called strike 3 for the second out here in the 8th.
Well, there's been some exciting news around the ballpark today for one manager, Don Mattingly. I'll tell you what, it's certainly well deserved. He is going to manage the MLB All-Stars against the Japanese All-Stars. You know, the series they like to play at the end of the season against MPB. He's going to get to manage the likes of Yadi Molina, Eugenio Suarez. You got Christian Yelich in there. He's already done that at least once. Ronald Acuna made it on the team as well. Rhys Hoskins, some really nice names. There you go.
They did this a few years back, and that was in 2014 that they did this, and that's where most of us here in America saw Shohei Ohtani for the first time.
Right. That's where the buzz started.
That's right. Altuve was on that team. Robinson Cano was on that team. And I say this from experience. That was the first no-hitter I ever called. I did that series for MLB Network, and the Major League All-Stars got no hit. No hits in this inning for the Mets. A 3-1 lead for the Marlins heading to the 9th inning here at Citi Field. To hide by USAA Insurance, banking and investments tailored for the military community, and by your South Florida Honda dealers. (3-1) as we go to the top of the 9th inning here in Queens.
Robert Gesellman into the ballgame. 3.89 ERA, 74 innings on the season, 74 innings, 5th in Major League Baseball. He's been getting lots of work out of the pen. 2.75 ERA since the All-Star break, along with 6 saves. Serves as the Mets closer.
Seven innings, 3 hits, 2 runs, a couple of walks, and 9 strikeouts for Jacob deGrom tonight. A 2-run Lewis Brinson double, really the only mistake, if you will. And then Anthony Swarzak gave up a solo home run to JT Riddle. Those are the 3 Marlins runs. A Michael Conforto home run, the only Mets run, as JT Realmuto deposits a base hit into center field to lead things off here in the 9th.
Yeah, another nice swing from JT Realmuto. Comes into this series hot. Had really been swinging the bat. This is part of the field he is really kind of picked on here of late. He's in the middle. First hit of the night.
And Steckenrider up for the Marlins. We'll have at least a 2-run lead to work with. See if Brian Anderson can do anything with the leadoff single. Takes the ball outside. Andy tonight a single in the 4th inning. That was with 2 outs. Came around to score on the Brinson double. Strikeout and ground out otherwise. 1 for 3.
Selman's got a good arm, mid-90s fastball, sinker I should say, throws it about 61% of the time. Slider, curve, occasional change. He's a converted starter. That's why you see the deeper arsenal.
1-0 pitch from Gazelman in there for a called strike at 96 miles an hour, 1-1. Assuming Conley's done after an inning and 2/3, back-to-back strikeouts to end the bottom of the 8th inning. Conley looked really good tonight. Came in with, at the time, the tying run on base. A line out and a ground out to get out of the 7th inning in relief of Jose Urena. And then a 1-2-3 8th. Anderson to right field. Nimmo dives and it gets by him. It's going to roll to the wall. Realmuto's coming around. He'll score easily. Anderson on his way to third, and he is in there standing up. It's 4-1 Marlins.
Well, that's what you do. You run the risk as a right fielder. You sell out to the catch. If you don't come up with it and don't keep it in front, it is off to the races. Nice swing by Brian Anderson, his second hit in the ballgame. He turns around that sinker, lines it to right. You see him crank it up. Watch Nimmo goes for the catch. Ball hit out in front by a good couple feet, unable to keep it in front. Realmuto scores easily.
That was like a low liner kind of going away from Nimmo. As Dietrich fouls it back, is there anything as a right fielder he could have done differently, or is that just sort of a do or die type of play?
Well, as soon as he decides to go for the catch, it becomes do or die. You see the approach that he took. Now, you know, if you're thinking in line with what the game situation is, and you say to yourself, I can't catch this baseball, you take a deeper angle.
He can't catch that one either. A base hit for Dietrich. And this one's going to get into the corner. Anderson scores easily on the RBI double. Dietrich thought about it as it rattles around the middle infield. But an RBI double, and the Marlins are up 5-1.
Wow, the offense explodes here in the 9th inning. At the middle of the lineup tonight, Anderson a couple of hits, an RBI. Dietrich a couple of hits, and an RBI double. He gets a breaking ball, the curveball, and lines it into that right field corner. Well, off to the races. Anderson, he scores easily once that ball gets down the line. Dietrich on his way to second.
Dietrich lifted for a pinch runner, and he'll get plenty of high fives in the dugout, as the Marlins have tacked on 2 big insurance runs here in the 9th. They've scored 3 runs in the last 2 innings combined, and still nobody out here in the 9th. Yadiel Rivera takes over at second base for Dietrich. Here is Lewis Brinson, who had the 2-run double off the base of the center field wall back in the 4th inning. Takes inside, 1-0. He's only hit in 3 trips tonight. The 2 more RBIs give him 36 on the season. Chop to third. McNeil will keep Rivera over at second base. Brinson retired for out number 1.
Well, a productive night regardless for the middle of this lineup between Anderson, Dietrich, and Brinson. You've got 5 of the Marlins' 7 hits, including 2 doubles and a triple. They've driven in all the runs, all 5 Marlins runs. Well, that and Riddle's home run. Can't forget that.
No, not at all. Saw Eric Handhold up in the Mets bullpen as the pitcher spot due up now. It'll be Peter O'Brien taking the at-bat, 1 on, 1 out, and 2 in.
Well, he's done a pretty decent job of this throughout his career, O'Brien. 6 for 18, a couple of home runs, 4 RBIs. Small sample size on the season, only 3 games worth of at-bats, 0 for 1 pinch hitting.
His first Marlins hit was a double on Saturday afternoon in Pittsburgh. At the conclusion of this one, the WB Mason Marlins Live postgame show. Craig Minervini, Tommy Hutton, Jeff Nelson in studio. Certainly Don Mattingly going to speak in pretty glowing terms, I would think, about Jose Urena. Big hit today from Lewis Brinson. JT Riddle's home run.
And I think back to one of the keys in this ball game, and listen, it wasn't just in the AutoNation scouting report. It was generally speaking what they've done against DeGrom as they still look to get their second win against him this year. Keep it close. And that goes to the defense. We saw some great Marlins defense tonight. Obviously, Urena outstanding. When you go up against a guy like DeGrom, you know, the idea is, oh, yeah, you know, we can give up a couple in the first. That might be all you get, or it might be all you give up.
O'Brien strikes out. First strikeout for Gazelman, and second out here in the 9th inning.
Well, if this score holds, Paul, and I think this will catch your attention, and I think it certainly will catch Marlins fans' attention as well. The Mets have lost, well, would have lost 7 of DeGrom's last 8 starts against the Marlins.
Broken bat, roller to third. McNeil off balance, gets Galloway by a step. We go to the bottom of the 9th inning. Marlins in front now by 4. Days here in Queens. Yadiel Rivera came in as a pinch runner for Derek Dietrich. Will take over for him at first base. And on the mound is Drew Steckenrider. No longer a save situation. A 4-run lead to work with. 66th game for Steck.
394 ERA. As you mentioned, game number 66.
He'll face Brandon Nimmo to lead things off. Dominic Smith. And then Austin Jackson. First pitch swinging for Nimmo.
Well, for Steckenrider, he pitched a couple of times.
Nimmo out to left field. Galloway on the edge of the track will make the play for the first out.
What I was getting ready to mention is how effective he had been over his last couple of opportunities to pitch against the Philadelphia Phillies. Of course, not the Pirates, the Phillies. So he's had a few days of rest. Last 2 innings of work, 4 strikeouts, only 1 walk.
Dominic Smith 1 for 3 tonight. A single back in the 2nd inning. Takes a called strike. Now, as Galloway had that broken bat ground out going to break, you had thrown out a number that I think bears repeating.
Right.
Well, go ahead.
Let's see if the Marlins can finish this thing off and get a couple more outs. But I think this just kind of blows our mind. Maybe it explains the DeGrom and the Mets story. Probably does a lot of things for a few people. Marlins go on to win this game. DeGrom obviously will be handed a loss. It'll be his second loss of the season against the Marlins. The Mets have lost, well, would have lost if they lose this one, 7 of the last 8 starts that DeGrom has made against the Marlins.
Mickey Callaway has watched this play out. I'm sure if you asked him, far too much this season. For DeGrom, another outing in which he has given up 3 earned runs or less. So that is 26 consecutive starts.
Well, I'll give you a wrap on DeGrom and we'll move past it. He's certainly Cy Young candidate. I don't think he lost anything tonight with his performance. Obviously,
I would agree.
I mean, you could even argue that the pitch to Brinson, where he put it, how do you dare call 98 above the top of the strike zone a mistake? Steckenrider gets it done.
2 away here in the 9th inning. The Coors Light refreshing finish. That very pitch and that very swing.
Well, let's show it to you one more time. Maybe it wasn't as inside as the Mets wanted it, but it certainly was at the spot they wanted it, at the top of the zone. But little did they know that Brinson has been handling velocity, especially up top. Choked up, drove it off that center field wall. It's a big moment in tonight's game, and it put the Marlins out in front.
Gave him a 2-0 lead. Mets got it to 2-1. A Riddle homer in the 8th. 2 runs in the 9th. And now the Marlins are an out away from taking the opener of this 4-game series.
Jose Urena, absolutely fantastic tonight. 4 consecutive fantastic starts. Where I was going with that. Oh boy, the laser focus that he has had. It's moving back into the rotation. My goodness. He's in line for, as I said, last 4 starts. It would be his 3rd win. No losses, 1 no decision.
And Steckenrider trying to finish it off here. That one fouled off the mask of Real Muto. Thankfully looks to be all right. Still 2-2. I think we've always talked about and admired the kind of that on the mound makeup of Urena, but it has almost been harnessed, it seems, a little differently these last few starts. Has that bulldog mentality, but it's a little bit more of just, I'm going to beat you. It's that I'm going to beat you quick and I'm going to go right after you.
He's eliminated that 1 inning he messed around. We talked about that in the beginning of the season. It was, and I say that loosely, but I think, you know, if you've watched him all season, you know what I'm talking about. As that one is wide to Jackson. 2 outs here. 95-mile-an-hour fastball from Steckenrider. Urena, we talked about it constantly. What, 3rd inning, 4th inning, you know, base it. It would happen, I don't know, 10, 15 pitches at a time. And next thing you know, he'd give up 3 or 4 runs. Big inning of the game, first 3 innings. Dominant as we saw him tonight. What he's done is he's eliminated that inning. Or maybe to point, and we talked about it during the Nimmo at-bats, because that was the inning where Conforto led off with the double. Double back around, made some pitches on the outside corner, and got himself out of that trouble, and then settled in for the rest of the way. I mean, he has been a true joy to watch. Not that he hasn't pitched with conviction, because that's really not the right way to say it, because he does that anyway.
Right.
But you're right. You know, to me, the words that come to mind are, well, a little phrase of laser focused on those outside and inside corners. Put the ball where he wants right now.
This one popped up behind home plate, but JT doesn't have a play. 0-2 to Kevin Plawecki. doubleheader tomorrow. The games are back-to-back. Marlins Live pregame show on the air at 3:30. Here is the 0-2 pitch. Back to the screen. Trevor Richards, Zach Wheeler in the first game tomorrow. And Jeff Brigham in his second major league start. Jason Vargas in the nightcap. Brinson and Riddle, a couple of guys with big hits in this one. Low and away to Plawecki, and Jackson, after all his work the last few pitches, finally gets to take second base. He was trying to get down there the last 3 pitches that Plawecki had fouled off, so finally takes second on a defensive indifference. And the 1-2. Drilled out to left field. Galloway will give it a look, and the Mets are still alive. It's 5-3.
Well, that 2-strike pitch ended up, well, what do they say, right down Broadway?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go, right down Broadway.
Plawecki's first home run since August 27th against a former Marlin, Steve Cishek. And it's a 2-run game now with 2 outs in the 9th.
Now for Steckenrider, long ball's been a little bit of a problem here lately. His first 34 appearances this season, no home runs allowed. Last 14 games, 5.
No swing as Steckenrider faces Reinheimer. 2 guys that currently start on the all-name team.
Reinheimer 0 for 2 pinch hitting this season.
Did he go? They check again. No swing. Two from Steckenrider upstairs. Count runs full. Ahmed Rosario waits on deck. And if it gets that far, he, of course, will be the tying run. And it will get that far. Second walk of the inning for Steckenrider.
Juan Nieves out to the mound. JT Realmuto as well. Looking out at the bullpen. Not a whole lot going on, although I do see about 2 or 3 arms starting to come up and stretch and get loose down in the Marlins bullpen. Well, what seemed to be maybe a harmless walk to Austin Jackson was followed by a loud and long home run off the bat of Plawecki.
And now Kyle Bearclaw is up.
Well, with Steck, what we've seen tonight, as I had mentioned prior to, you know, the ability to put away hitters, and that's kind of been the issue here over the last 3 hitters, the ability to put them away. He's gotten ahead, he's made pitches. It's that icing on the cake is what you're looking for. They made a mistake to Plawecki.
Here is Ahmed Rosario. Ground ball to Castro, the flip to short, and that is it.
Good meeting.
It's a Marlins win, 5-3. Yeah, Juan probably said, just roll a ground ball. That's it.
What you call a good pitcher's meeting. That's how you get it done. Way to go, Juan. Attaboy.
So the Marlins get the opener. It is 4-game series. They'll head into the doubleheader tomorrow. on the heels of a 5-3 victory tonight as Urania outduels DeGrom, who falls to 8-9 in what can still be considered a Cy Young season. However, the Marlins have had his number, relatively speaking, of course. Marlins Live postgame show from the studios on the other side of the break.